I actually think it's an excellent package. It's very balanced. It's quite ambitious as well. And if we look at the early reactions of the member states, I actually think they're quite positive. Whether this will be enough at the end of the day, no one knows. But I think this is as ambitious as the European Union can get. And I think it's a great job by the European Commission.
I share what Alex just said. I think it's important because it is a way also to link this recovery package to the main missions of the European Commission, the Green New Deal, digitalization, innovation. And I think also it's very important because it's a demonstration of solidarity within the European Union without transfers. It's a solidarity, but for a sort of working process for the future.
Well, I think, first of all, this should be viewed from a macroeconomic and financial perspective rather than an accounting exercise. And I think both in Denmark and in Sweden, both countries understand that the internal market and their economies are intimately tied with what's going on in Europe. I'll give you an example. Sweden took a different line in fighting the COVID virus, but economically, it's pretty much in the same boat. So I understand where they are coming from, but at the end of the day, we're tied to the hip. What happens in Italy, what happens in Spain will have reflections and repercussions in both Denmark and Sweden. And I do think that at the end of the day, they will come on board.
And what happens if they don't come round?
I think they will come around because usually the way in which the European Union works is that you have three phases. Phase number one is a crisis. Phase number two is chaos, and phase number three is a suboptimal solution. So what you hear in the beginning is a very defensive stance from the Frugal Four, which is understandable. Then they will tweak and change the proposal a little bit, and then everyone can come out as having a successful negotiation deal. So they will come aboard. I'm absolutely sure about that.
I think they will be on board. The only problem is if it is necessary to have some sort of opting out or something like that, maybe for the Netherlands, because it seems that their position, because of their parliament, is so rigid. But I have to say that what is very important today is a big message of trust, of confidence to the rest of the world, but also, first of all, for the European citizens, because recovery is not only a problem of supply chain, it's also a problem of demand. So it is necessary to show trust, confidence, and to be able to work in a cohesive way. There are many problems, but this crisis was the third one in a row in a decade, and it was absolutely necessary to have a different reaction rather than the two previous crises, the financial crisis and the refugee crisis. And I think this decision, yesterday's decision, is at the level of the whatever it takes that Mario Draghi took as main change in the monetary policy 8 years ago. It is a turning point. Now, it is very important to be very good in the implementation. I'm not completely satisfied without seeing the implementation part of the process. That is half of the problem.
A couple of years ago, I also had a campaign program for Spitzenkandidat, which was called Next Generation Europe. So I'm very glad to see that sort of popping into the program. I think what's going to happen right now is that we're going to see more Europe in what I would call the social sphere. Remember that from 1989, the end of the Cold War and the collapse of communism, the European Union has been a very market-oriented project with the four freedoms, free movement of goods, services, labor, and money, with very strong competition policy lines, and also with very strong regulations and rules on state aid. Now we're seeing a bit of a comeback of the state, and there's been a lot of talk about what I call social Europe, but now for real, we see social Europe. If I recall correctly, there's 9.8 billion euros allocated to health issues, which is not really in the European domain. So for the first time, we're seeing the emergence of social Europe, and that's where we're going to see more Europe in the future. And I actually welcome that.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary to be able to use all this money in the correct way, in the perfect way. But also it is very important to keep public finances in order. Italy is able to manage his debt, but this crisis will increase the debt, not only for Italy, but also for the rest of the European countries. So I think it is very important also to have the way to keep finance in order, to use this money to boost growth, to boost digitalization, to have the possibility to help the country to be more modern. So I think it's a great opportunity for Italy, for the Italian leadership, for the Italian entrepreneurs to be more modern, to get the future in a better way.